Hey guys, it's Catherine, and today I'm just going to give you some little tips and tricks on how to draw hands. So let's just get started. The first thing you're going to need is your materials, and I used pencil and Mars plastic eraser, but I don't recommend that. I actually recommend using charcoal pencil for the smearing properties and a kneaded eraser for the less harsh erasing, because you want to keep some of your lines. Just one tip for like drawing in general, you want to keep your lines even when they're wrong, so that you can draw the correct one and then erase the wrong one, because otherwise you might just keep drawing the wrong one over and over and over. And one thing I want you to keep in mind while we're looking at this drawing is just that the camera angle and the perspective on the hand is going to be different than the perspective that I was drawing from. So if you're trying to see how it matches up, it probably doesn't. You don't want to draw the outlines. You don't want to start drawing a hand, oh okay, I know what a hand looks like, this is what it looks like, and then just draw around a finger, and then this is where the thumb is, and then this is where the wrist is. Instead, you want to draw forms, and you'll have a more accurate, proportionate, dimensional hand if you start from the inside out instead of outside in. One way to do that would be using an S-curve, and basically it's just drawing figure eights in the form of fingers and shapes. It helps you just determine direction of your fingers and like the way that your hand is pointing and all that kind of stuff. An S-curve kind of crosses in the middle like an X, sort of like a figure eight, and usually where it crosses, it could be like where a joint is or where a knuckle is. It kind of gives you something to work with while you're fleshing out in the hand. Something else you can do would be to check your drawing against itself. Look at the relationship in the direction of where the knuckles are on your actual hand in real life, and then use your pencil as a ruler and kind of determine the direction of that line, and then draw that line in your drawing, and you'll have a more accurate hand and it will develop over time. Once again, drawing from the inside out. Okay, and very important thing for just drawing in general is practice drawing from real life. You know, everyone says this, and while I definitely use reference photos for some things, drawing from something two-dimensional will actually flatten your drawing. And the point of drawing hands is to make it look dimensional. So why would you draw, something flat when you're trying to make it look 3D? Okay, so now I'm just going to say that I don't recommend using yourself as a hand model, because I kept, I guess my finger was relaxing or something, and so like the position of my hand made it so much harder to draw because it was changing. So I'd start out with like an initially accurate line, and then over time it became irrelevant because it changed. But I mean, I figured it out eventually. It was a challenge though. It definitely was a challenge doing these sketches. Which brings me to my next point. Make mistakes. Don't be too tentative. Just do, okay? Like, fix it later. One way of doing this also would be to draw shadows, and like drawing a two-dimensional flat shape can also help you sort of position and place your fingers and whatever in the correct location. So now this is something that could be a little bit more challenging to understand, and I had to remind myself of all these things while I was actually making this sketch, because it's been a while since I've drawn a hand. So draw forms like boxes. So a finger can be, you can kind of think of a finger as a cylinder, and if I want to make that even simpler, you can think of it as a box. Have you ever drawn one of those boxes in space where you draw like a square, draw like 3 diagonal lines like going out, and then you draw like another square to like kind of connect them, and then it looks like a box? You're kind of doing the same principle drawing fingers, and so if you keep that in mind, it makes it a lot easier. So in that sense, you can pay attention to plane shifts. So like when you're doing a box, you have the same amount of space on the top of the box. Like when you're doing a box, like I just explained, you have the same amount of space on top of the box that you do on the side of the box. But in a finger, you're going to have maybe less space showing on the side of the box and more space showing on the top of the box. So you just have to pay attention to like those plane shifts and the difference between the top and the side and the bottom. So I'm actually moving my hand while I'm talking about this, because if I put my hand up on that finger, it will be one way, and then when I get to the side of the finger, it will be a different way. So just where it changes from like being straight to being turned where my hand does is it's going to help you if you think about that, of how your forms are going to be shaped. So I used a brush pen to solidify my lines. They're a little bit sketchy because my pencil lines were a little bit sketchy, but I really like using this pen because my lines can be a lot more expressive, and it adds a lot to the style of my hand when I did that. So let's just say that the second pose has a lot more foreshortening than the first pose. The first pose definitely did, but when thinking about the second pose, this particular pose, you can tell that like those fingers are very foreshortened. And so the same way to think about them would be thinking about the box construction. So to make it more concrete for you, the front of the box, I would say, would be like the tip of the finger. It's kind of like an oval, and then the usually the fingernail, if it's going to be foreshortened too, sits on top of that box. And then the end of that back of the box is going to be that first knuckle, and then the lines in between are just going to connect it. They are really easy to do if you have both the front knuckle and that the front of the finger in the right place. It's going to be a lot easier to connect them. The last thing that I want to say about this is just don't give up. Like, I made a lot of mistakes drawing these hands, and I changed a lot of things. I did a lot of erasing, but I solved a lot of the problems that I had, and I actually learned a lot more by solving the problems than just scrapping it and like giving up and like starting over. So wow, I have a lot of the video left to like talk about more stuff. So let's just recap then. So first, don't draw the outlines. Draw inside and out. Use the S-curve to find direction and the placement of your joints. Draw from real life. Use box construction to draw fingers, and even drawing foreshortened hands and fingers. And lastly, don't give up. Yeah, and really that's all I have to say about this. So I'm just going to put a little bit of music on if you want to see the rest of this hand. I didn't finish this one with the shading or with the pen just because I was so exhausted. You'll see at the very end where I like kind of slow the camera down and I kind of like flex my hands because I swear I have carpal tunnel. I don't know what's wrong with me. It hurts. It hurts sometimes, which makes me really scared that my hands are going to be like really bad when I get older, because they're probably one of the most important things to me. So anyway, let me know if any of these concepts were just a little bit too abstract, if you want me to go in more specific on some of them. I know it's really hard to think about and it's really abstract, but trust me, it was abstract for me as well when I started learning about them. And the only way I learned about it was just remembering what I was taught, remembering how to remembering what my professor said, and just applying it every time a little bit more, thinking about these concepts a little bit more in each drawing and expanding on them every single time I draw. And that's what I mean by drawing a lot. This, I learned figure drawing in one class, 15 weeks of class, and just drawing every day. And one day he started us with the S-curve. The next day he added foreshortening. The following day he started talking about, drawing shapes, not form. Like drawing the shape, the abstract shape of something instead of drawing what you think you know. And just a little bit more every day, adding it on will just really help to the overall understanding. So, if you need to watch this video multiple times to kind of figure something out, or if you have, just want to learn more about a specific concept, it's just going to take a lot of time, and I don't expect you to understand it all at once, because it took me a long time for it to finally click. So, drawing hands, and I kind of hope some of this does help. If you kind of watch closely about how I draw, like the veins in the hands, that will also help you kind of place where your fingers are. And like these concepts too will help you in real life, like drawing other things, like drawing complicated things, like knowing just these little tips and tricks and little skills and techniques. You can apply these later. So, well, now I'm really getting to the end of this video. I might not even be playing any music, so I guess that's all I have to say. My next video is going to be a review about sand erasers. Peyton, if you're watching this, let me know, commented on one of the videos that I did about erasers and asked if I knew anything about this. I'm like, no, I sure don't, but I ordered them off of Amazon, so I have them sitting right in front of me. I'm gonna do a review on them in my next video, so I'll let you know what I think about them. Sand erasers, they are supposed to erase like ink. We'll see about that. Peyton, know that you know. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Like I said, I really hope this helped. Don't get discouraged if you don't understand it, all at once. Like I said, it took me a really long time and a lot of practice before I really got it. So, but once I did, it makes me really happy and a lot more confident when drawing hands. So you just have to go, do, try, and that's really it. So y'all have a really good night. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.